once in a while, we come across a piece of technology that is so powerful, it enables tool makers like us to build something so ubiquitous like a cup. In years, it becomes so natural to everyday person that it becomes, like flowers and trees growing from the ground. We see Feather as this quiet but ambitious tool that does all of your digital chores. My name is Xiaobo, and I grew up loving quiet tools, from stationery and software to cool machines. I then went to Carnegie Mellon because I wanted to build some of these things and met Marco, my co-founder. We built a lot of side projects together, and while there, I realized he reminded me of one of my heroes, Bill Atkinson, someone that relentlessly solved hard engineering problems for the sake of user experience. I then went to design school because all products should look beautiful, and I worked with Chris as a freelance design duo, and the two of us did a bunch of projects. He is an award-winning designer from Bristol, and the three of us worked at Rabbit, where I led product. Marco built tool use and computers agents with memory, thinking, and user preferences. Chris imagined different form factors, software and hardware, to interact with them. It was here that we realized we could build this world with no busy work. And it starts with the software that's lived your entire life the moment you connect, forming a layer of memory from all of your context without ever needing to interact with it, extracting all of the key information and mapping it onto interfaces beyond chat. It constantly filters out all of the noise in your life, and whenever something comes in, it maintains itself through time. You see, for hundreds and thousands of years, we've been using the same way to document, communicate, and organize information. But for the first time, it's going to be alive and self-maintained, and I'm going to show you right now. When you land onto Feather, you see a beautiful landing page that's called the Daily Brief. The daily events and the actionable items are on the top, and the unimportant things go to the bottom. Pretty standard stuff. However, whenever something new comes in that requires tracking, it will create a tracker. Since no information is coming in right now, I will create it myself. I can tell Feather to start to track my apartment application in SF, something pretty painful for myself earlier this year. And I simply generated a schema and named this room apartment, calling this table SF. Here, I'm pretty happy with the schema already, so I'm not going to change it, creating this room. Now, we're calling it room because it is an incredibly new concept that no one's ever built before, and this reminds me of the room of requirement in Harry Potter. It has your intent, has your context, and gives you a solution right then and there. Never needing you to do anything, and this generative UI is different from a lot of other interfaces because it's persistent, it has the source, doesn't hallucinate, and is completely interactable, right? It stays here, and for example, if the bedroom size is wrong, I can simply edit it. These things are, kind of like select list dropdowns. So I can say rent it, and I can fix this right here. Even if it hallucinates, I can see where the source is coming from, and I can just correct information by reading this email. But we've been building software for the longest time by thinking of a problem and building a way to interact with it, storing data, table, calendar, map, or something even more. However, we're generating these interfaces on top of these unstructured data for the first time and making it persistent. So if something has location data, boom, it shows up on a map. I didn't touch this. Okay. This is an incredibly powerful concept, but I'm not really here to just show you tracking apartments, right? This is my personal email. It tracks insurance, investments, spending, travel. This is a fun one because you can see how Feather does record linkage. This is 5 different emails linked into one row, constantly updating. Whenever something new comes in, the document is never dead, it's self-maintaining. Moreover, because it has 2 different locations, it draws dotted lines. Pretty cool. A month and a half ago, I asked Linus what I can do better, and he was like, make this collaborative. And I was like, that is a really good point. So now I'm going to share this with Marco, my co-founder, and I'm going to put my hands off the computer. I want to explain a little bit what the difference between Feather table versus like any other table out there is, right? Any other table, you kind of talk to the agent and you kind of ask a lot of questions during inference. It stuffs a lot of context, kind of like an assistant on the first day of their job, but every day it's their first day. With Feather, it's like your mind palace, and it knows exactly where everything is. It doesn't burn through a world of tokens and construct a world right there. It just takes the right information and put it into the table. See, Marco is currently ingesting sources from his data. So now when I share this table with a lot of people, hey, Marco, he spent a weekend doing this. This is a college side project called Cursor Chat. And now you can point to different parts. But going back to the pre-process part, you can actually now plug this into a lot of people's different data sources and maintain the data. Whenever something updates on anyone's table, it will show up on everyone else's. You no longer need to dread telling other people, hey, I'm doing this, and you never need to dread updating that information. Well, the data pre-processing is a coin of two sides. On one side, it solves a really big problem of maintaining dead documents, right? Keeping it alive. But on the other side, it's really, really good search. It can fetch all of these unstructured data because it's already structured it, so whenever you ask how much money you've spent on Uber rides, it knows exactly by fetching this table. The other hard part of search is actually just searching for exact context in a data corpus. So I can ask Feather, hey, based on where I live in SF, can I own a pet? And Feather knows that this is probably a file either in my drive or in my attachment. It searches the file and actually will look at it. After I look at the file, it would tell me exactly where the file is from, and it would tell me, hey, it's section 22. Attribution is really incredible. Speaking of busy work, we have 3 different pillars, and I've shown you 2. The first one is organization, maintaining documents. The second one is search, really good at finding things for you on the fly. And the third one is action. Now, Marco just sent me an email asking me if I want to meet on Thursday. And Feather tells me I'm free because it has access to my data, my calendar. It says it can reply to Marco and perform an action by sending him an email and an invite. I can press a button, and boom, it's done. Now, this is not a meeting scheduler or email auto-reply tool. This is something that turns every notification into a solution, right? When you log into all of the tools that you use, there are actually a lot of use cases that you probably want to set up workflows for. You probably know that crazy friend who have a lot of MCP servers or it's API workflow. But now, every time a notification comes in, Feather either turns it into a bespoke solution or something that's a repetitive workflow. And then as time goes on, it quietly makes you also that crazy friend that set up all of these crazy workflow without you realizing it. We always test with the same 50 people by iterating our product. And the most recent test kind of showed a lot of magic in the tracker. But also, it is really reassuring to know that people love the proactive stuff because this is where we're heading to and this is where we're tuning up the magic. As you can probably tell, it took a lot of hard work to do all of these technical stuff, and iterating with a lot of people is not easy. So for the past 3 months, we kind of de-risked most of the key technical challenges, and we kind of have the magic in a bottle. In the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to tune that magic up and polish the product, shipping it to people around us. To end today's presentation, I want to pay homage to one of the greats. At Feather, we strive to be a great tool maker, and Dieter Rams is definitely one of them. He says good design is as little design as possible. We built Feather with the philosophy of good interaction is as little interaction as possible. As a technologist trained in computer science, I understand that there is an exponential growth in technical innovation. But as a tool maker, I know that what we have currently versus what we can have, there's a huge gap. We see Feather as this tool that bridges this gap, and we see it as our life's work to get there. We hope you can be a part of it. Thank you so much, and this is our landing page.